My name is Reverend Dr. Nori Rost. I'm the minister at All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church, the Church of Social Justice. And we're gathered here today with other faith leaders and elected officials and candidates and people of this community because we are tired. We are so tired of not having justice done for people of color. We as a community want to show an abundance of transparency when it comes to crimes perpetrated against people of color, particularly against young black men by white men. Our District Attorney Dan Mays has refused to press charges in two cases in particular. The case of Jessie Garcia, who was gunned down outside of a Taco Bell a couple years ago, and the case of Devin Turrell, who was evidently guilty of the crime of VWB, vacationing while black. When our DA refuses to press charges, he is saying to people of color, to our brothers and sisters of color, that their lives don't matter. But we are here today to say that their lives do matter. We are here to say enough is enough. And we are here today to demand justice for Jessie Garcia, for Devin Turrell, for all the other people of color who have been assaulted and attacked by white people. We are here to say enough is enough, and we demand action, we demand justice. And it is my honor to introduce Dennis Aquan, former state representative and community activist.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Nori Ross. My brothers and sisters in the struggle, please join me in a moment of silence. Great Spirit of compassion and justice, in our efforts to dismantle racism, we understand that we struggle not merely against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities. Those institutions and systems that keep racism alive by perpetuating the lie that some members of the family are inferior and others superior. Spirit of liberty, we live in a nation in which the institution of human bondage was once legal and accepted practice. We give thanks for those who worked and fought at great personal sacrifice to bring about an end to the cruel and oppressive system in our own land. And we pray that governments and authorities everywhere in the world might be led to make a quick end to the enslavement of any human being. As we gather this morning as your beloved community, and in anticipation of the U.S. Supreme Court's decision today on the Muslim ban, grant us by your grace the strength and courage never again to treat as enemies any entire group of persons solely because of the enmity of some members of that group, but to defend and preserve the basic human rights of all people, even in times of distress. Spirit of racial harmony, creator of all people, in our diversity of size, shapes, color, and giftedness, grant us by your grace to recognize the beauty of those of all whom you have made in your own image. Give us gifts of humility and generosity of spirit to recognize all people and practice the commandment to love one another. Create in us a new mind and heart that will enable us to see our brothers and sisters in the faces of those divided by racial categories. Grant us gift of grace and strength to rid ourselves of racial stereotypes that oppress some of us while providing entitlements for others. Help us to create a beloved community that embraces the hopes and fears of oppressed people of color where we live, as well as those around the world. Amen.
Thank you for those prophetic words. It's now my honor to introduce Stephanie Spalding. She's a candidate for Congressional District 5. Please come forward, Stephanie.
Beloved, we are gathered here today because enough is enough.
Amen.
We are gathered here today because we are one body, we are one community, and we are tired of those who seek to live out their personal agendas and not justice for all of us. We are tired of those that would bring division to our community. We are tired for the lives that are meted out as those that matter and those that matter not. We all matter. And we are in a moment, we are in a movement to make sure that those who are in positions of power recognize that we are one body and that our lives matter. And so we stand here seeking justice for Jessie, seeking justice for Devin.
Yes, yes, yes.
Because when there is oppression anywhere, it is a threat to justice everywhere.
Yes.
There are none in our community who deserve the kind of violence and the disregard for life and humanity. And we demand that our district attorney do his job.
Yes, yes.
Do your job so that justice and liberty is for all.
It is not up to our district attorney to be a gatekeeper to decide by himself who gets to be charged with a crime and who does not. It is his job to make sure that crimes are addressed in a fair and equitable manner. And here right now to read a letter that we have written to Dan May is Rosemary Harris Lytle. She's president of the NAACP State Conference representing Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana.
Do your job.
Yeah!
Do your job. Do your job.
Yeah!
We are here because we are calling on our elected official, our district attorney in this 4th Judicial District to do his job. To do his job. To do his job, and the job is justice.
That's right.
It's in the mission statement. Look at it. In our letter from the NAACP Colorado Springs branch and the NAACP Colorado, Montana, Wyoming State Conference, Dan May, 4th Judicial District Attorney, 105 East Vermaho, Colorado Springs, Colorado, 80903. District Attorney Dan May. Today, leaders and members of the NAACP Colorado Springs branch and NAACP Colorado, Montana, Wyoming State Conference, along with other civil rights, faith, and activist organizers, gather outside your office. In gathering, we join to protest the lack of charges in 2 high-profile cases. We gather to again protest the lack of charges from our own district attorney's office in the murder of young Jessie Garcia. And we gather to protest the lack of charges in the recent brutal beating of Devin Turrell, an Arizona tourist who'd rented an old Colorado City vacation rental with his spouse. Do your job.
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 As is public and official knowledge, both cases were charged by race and by the fact that can never be negated that it was about race.
That's right.
Both victims were African American males, and both perpetrators were white males. In addition, both perpetrators made plain their connections and their alliances with official sources, with their privilege. In fact, no charges were filed against the killer of Jessie Garcia, and the video was sealed against the wishes of the family and the wishes of this community. Do your job.
Do your job.
Do your job.
Do your job.
No charges, it appears, will be filed in the case of Devin Turrell. These are decisions that could still be changed.
That's right.
Justice can still happen. We demand justice.
Yes.
It must truly be the order of the day. So we ask that you meet with us, that you listen to us. Please coordinate via email. the NAACP leadership team, and members of the community, including those undersigned, and many, many more who demand justice.
How many people here today are clergy or faith leaders? We represent the constituencies in the hundreds here. How many people here are involved in social justice organizations? We represent constituents here in the hundreds and thousands. We will not be silenced. We will not shut up. We will not go away. We will not sit down until justice is done, or at least until our voices are heard. And if Dan May's going to say no behind closed doors, we're going to say he's saying no to justice in public so that the community knows.
We seek for liberty and we seek for justice. And I would have to say that based on my experience of being in this community, people of faith ought to be deeply, deeply disturbed at the fact that justice is not being achieved in all of the circumstances of these two individuals whose matters are before us right now. We say that, as Dr. King reminded us, that the moral arc of the universe bends toward justice. But unless there is a concrete demonstration of justice in cases like these, all we're really doing is simply saying we believe in the principle of justice. We believe in the principle of equality. But unless equality and justice is manifest concretely in circumstances such as these, there is no justice. And there is no equality. And we are not safe in our own person. So if we want to live in a community of oneness, of hope, of equality, of transparency, we all need to step forward and demand that justice be achieved in these cases.
Thank you very much.
And the El Paso County Democratic Party stands on the side of justice for all. For all. Dan May is the public's attorney. In his job, he is required to serve the public. That includes the public of all colors, of all genders, of all faiths. We stand firm with the NAACP in this position. We stand firm with the community members in this position. We stand firm with Devin. We stand firm wherever justice fails anyone.
Thank you, Tracy.
This is exhausting. We keep showing up at the end game when there is a tragedy that needs our attention, and I am grateful that media is here. But I am also thinking of members of my own congregation and people in this community who every day are wondering, are their lives at risk? And will they be the next that show up in the voices of those who protest or rally because it's an end game? We need to do better. We need to do better before we get here. We need to do better in the relationships that we have. We need to do better when we come across anybody who is a friend, who dares to put another down, to be able to have the courage to stand up in that moment so that we don't have these end games anymore. This is exhausting. And it's heartbreaking. And while we have, as Douglas said, an opportunity to come together for justice, we need to do it long before we get here.
Thank you, Amy.
My name is Amy Plapp. I'm a mother and a grandmother. I live in Colorado Springs. 25 years ago, my family member was murdered in the state of Texas, and my family had the undivided attention of the police department and the district attorney, and we received justice. And I look around me and I see other people who aren't white not receiving justice, and that's not fair. Do your job, Dan May.
Do your job! 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 Dan May is an elected official. He was not anointed by God or any other supreme being to make decisions on his own. We elected him. He's accountable to us. And we are here to hold him accountable. So we thank you all for being here today, and we encourage you to continue to keep your eyes open, to keep your heart open, to keep your arms stretched out for justice until it is done. Thank you so much.
The case of Devin Turrell, who with his spouse went to a vacation rental in Old Colorado City. They arrived at the place that they they believed was their vacation rental and went into the door. It was unlocked as it was supposed to be. But when they walked inside, they met with racist epithets, with N-word assault, and with a physical assault from the property owner, who was the person who was actually renting to them. They were in the wrong place. Instead of being in this door, they were in this one. And when that happened, it resulted in something that in most reasonable minds would have just been a misdirection. You must be our tenants. Here, let me take you to your vacation rental. But instead, it turned into something that no one would have ever imagined being a vacation.
So this is Salem.
It was the Salem that was the property owner was renting a vacation rental. Showing that those who have the power and the access to power are those who have the privilege. I think that has been well documented time and again, and I'm going to tell you, in this week alone, and it's only Wednesday, the NAACP Colorado Springs has received 5 complaints of racial discrimination. It's not getting any better. It has gotten worse in this general atmosphere. And we're better than this. This is the city beautiful. And we have to live that for everyone who's here, and not just the privileged few who know the power.
People who are victimized really don't trust the authorities, and so then I have to do the work of trying to make sure those bridges can be made stronger between communities, between those who are in our Justice Department, to say that no, they serve us collectively as a people, and there should be trust. So we're back here in another instance where communities of color really don't believe that the district attorney will seek justice